Welcome, y'all. It's Wes, DIY Food Plot Pro. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. Today, we're talking about the most frustrating thing about food plots: wildlife damage. You go out there and you bust your butt, you lime it, you fertilize it, you spray it, you plant it, you do every single thing by the book, and then you go out and you're so proud and you're so happy, and then all of a sudden you get to your plot and it's been completely destroyed by wildlife. This is something that all of us have faced from time to time. Look at all those. Every single one of those. So I think a lot of you are going to be shocked that the number one problem that I have in Western Kentucky with planting a corn food plot is not going to be the white-tailed deer. I think far and wide, most people are going to say deer is the biggest issue. It's not for me. They do pose a significant threat to a food plot, a small food plot, but they are not the biggest problem that I face. I've seen this a lot over the years farming as well as planting my food plots, and I'm going to show you what animals are causing this damage and also some of the remedies that we can do to fix some of these problems. Let's dive right into our first pest. This one doesn't cause a significant number of problems for a lot of us. It can. The remedy typically is better with time, and it is voles or mice in our field. So when we plant corn in a heavy thatch area, which is basically something that you bush hog, like a CRP type environment with 4 or 5 foot tall grass, you bush hog it. You try to scratch it lightly, but you can't because the thatch is too thick. You go in there and you plant your corn or your soybeans, and basically you've got a ton of cover on top of the ground. And that's what those mice and voles love. They have a ton of cover there. They can just go right down below all that thatch, get all the seed, and they're never worried about any hawks or any owls or eagles getting them because they constantly have cover over them. So the best thing that we can do to remedy this is going to be spray on time and kill that stuff down to where it's not 4 feet tall of grass. Spray plenty ahead of time and get that stuff killed down to where there's very little organic matter sitting right there on the ground. The cleaner the ground is, the less pressure you're going to have from mice or voles. I know they're small, but I'm telling you guys, they can be a significant problem. I've seen it with my own eyes. We had a CRP farm. We took it out of CRP. We planted the first year of the no-till planter. And the worst part about this stuff, you're not going to know you've got any problems until 3 or 4 weeks go by, because that thatch is so thick. It's going to take it a while. The ground's going to be colder underneath there. It's going to take it a while for that corn, soybeans to get through there. And by the time you realize that there's nothing there, you're already 3 or 4 weeks behind. And then you've got to plant again, wait another week or 10 days. It's just a disaster. And it's something that we can avoid and we should avoid when planting food plots. And we can 100% take care of these animals. These do not have to be a pest for us. We can take care of these. Okay, number 2, the white-tailed deer. We're all familiar with it. That's what we're raising the plots for. Okay, for corn, most of the time deer are not going to hit the little corn very much at all. Okay, this is deer damage in corn. You can see that. See how those 3 have been bit plumb off? If they do, they don't cause significant damage. They typically just bite the top of the plant off. The plant grows from within, not a big deal. So I typically don't have a lot of problems with deer eating my corn. Now, that being said, last year we were in a severe drought. I'm talking like everything was burned up and brown, looked awful. My corn down in some of those bottoms was doing fairly decent. It was staying good in dark green. And then I started noticing something that I've never noticed being a farmer all these years and growing up on a farm, planting tons of food plots. I started seeing something that I've never seen before. Deer were biting the plant off at the ground. Okay, I'm talking like it looked like a bush hog went down through there, 4 or 5 inches off the ground. They just bite it off and the whole plant would fall over. This was pre-tassel, but you're talking 7, 8 foot tall corn. Okay, never seen that. I've never heard about that. Never heard of anybody else having issues with that. It was a real significant problem down here last year. And to be honest with you guys, I don't know the answer to it. The only thing that I could possibly think of is corn has really good deep roots. Maybe those deer were getting some type of sugar, some type of moisture from biting that plant at the base, breaking it off, and then drinking that fluid out of the center. I honestly don't know, but it had to be something like that because it was fairly significant. Most of the time, we don't have a lot of problem with corn up until the time that we call roasting ears. Now, there's going to be people that tell you they eat the silks. Silks are 97% water. As long as there's plenty of water around, silks are going to grow back just like that. Not a big deal. There's plenty of pollen falling. It's not like if it misses, if they bite the silks off, it's never going to get any pollen again. I don't have a lot of issues with that. What they call the roasting ear stage is where we're eating sweet corn, and they do like it pretty good at that point, and they will start hitting it. And they're going to hit it fairly hard until it starts getting pretty tough, and then all of a sudden they're done with it until the fall. Now, as we all know, deer love little young soybeans, and I have told you many times on my videos, the key to getting soybeans growing is to let those two first leaves come out, and then their first trifoliate, which is a set of 3 leaves. If you let that first set of 3 leaves get out, and then the deer start biting it off all the way at the ground, they cannot kill that stuff. It's just going to keep sprouting back. If they bite them off, and those leaves are still there, which is the cotyledons, that's the first leaves that come out. If they bite them off and leave them like this one has, as you can see, there's a shoot coming out. If they bite it off below that, it's dead. If you let the deer in that plot with those 2 first little leaves, they're like a leathery looking leaf, and they bite those off, your plant is dead as a mackerel and it ain't coming back. So it's very, very important to watch your stand of soybeans while they're starting to sprout, and get out there and do something to get rid of those deer for a week to 10 days so that those plants can get established. Now, we do this, I've done this many times in the past by planting higher populations, much higher than average populations. Talking about 650,000 seeds per acre in a high density deer zone. It worked, okay? And it will work. I've seen it many times. Another route to go is to use something to scare those deer out of those plots for, like I said, a week to 10 days until you see that first trifoliate come out. Then you are good to go. I'm going to have a whole episode coming up on deer deterrents. I've got so many things I'm testing right now, and I can't wait to bring you that information and let you know what works, what didn't work. Spoiler alert, I put a scarecrow in one of my soybean plots to see kind of what happened there. Me and the girls one rainy day built 3 or 4 scarecrows. We put them out in corners where deer were just hammering the plots. And all of a sudden, we had 3 full days of 0 deer in the plots. So there's something that we did right there. I've used pie pans in the past, but I don't want to give all of them away that I'm researching. Subscribe, and you'll find all that stuff out later when it comes out. Okay, next we got coons, okay? Coons cause a significant pressure on our corn food plots when we start getting into that roasting year stage. At the same time, the deer start liking that sweet corn stage, even though it's not sweet corn, it's field corn. They hammer it then. The way you know it's coons is the plant will be about halfway up and then it will break over. What happens, that coon can't reach that ear. He goes all the way to the top and then he leans. And he leans that plant until it snaps. When it falls, the corn's on the ground, he can get to it. That's how you know if you have a lot of coon pressure. And you're going to have a lot of coon pressure right next to woods. Be very aware of coons. They can do a significant amount of damage later on in the season. All right, I've made y'all wait long enough for the number one answer that I deal with, problem in corn food plots. Cannot wait to get home illegal to give Mr. Crow, he's right there, a 12-gauge sandwich. I think he'll really enjoy a 12-gauge sandwich. I will really enjoy giving him the 12-gauge sandwich. And, but I don't know. Is it legal in your area? So let me know if it's legal in your area or not. Get out of here, Crow! Horn seems to scare him, but only for a short amount of time. Crows. Crows and turkeys. Gosh almighty. I mean, I'm talking, it's unbelievable. And I know y'all may not deal with them. I'm not sure if this is a countrywide issue, if this is just here in my neck of the woods in Western Kentucky, but they are freaking thick. And the problem with a crow, it doesn't take very many to really screw up a good field of corn. All right, here's a perfect example right here. This plant's completely dead. It's brown and shriveled up. And you can actually even see the seed where they yanked that up. So, real life example here, I had a 3.5 acre cornfield last year. And I went to it probably 10 days after I planted it, looked it over, and I'm like, man, this is beautiful. I planted 28,000 seeds per acre. I probably got a final stand of 26,000. Just, I mean, you talk about beautiful, 2-3 inches tall. And I started seeing 1 or 2 plants that were laying on top of the ground. I'm like, that's weird. What's that? You know, turkeys, I guess, you know. So, didn't think a whole lot about it. Turkeys they can do some damage. Typically, turkeys will go straight down a row. Okay, as you can see, this row right here, there's a corn plant right there. As you can see, running in that row, we're just going to take a little walk. Right there's the next corn plant. So that right there is probably 40 feet, and that's turkeys right there. Turkeys are known for getting in a row and just staying with it. That's how you know you've got turkey damage. They go straight down a row. But in this case, this was random, and it was just a single plant laying over. So I left, didn't think a whole lot about it. I came back a week later. That corn should have been about this tall at that point. And I'm telling you, there was very, very little corn left in that food plot. I was probably down to 10,000 plants per acre. And I thought, holy crap, I cannot believe. And I blamed it too. I'm like, these dang deer eating it off before it even gets a chance. I put a game camera out, had one with me. And to your surprise, to my surprise, 5 crows. 4 or 5 crows had came in and they had took up residence in that cornfield. And all they were doing was going down through there and they were grabbing a plant, yanking it out of the ground. This corn was about, 5-6 inches tall at the time, yanking it out of the ground. And then what they were doing is they were eating that little seed on the end. All right, here's a brand new one. This thing was perfectly fine. It hasn't wilted at all yet. But you can see it's had its roots completely pulled up this morning. And they're turkey or crow. It's the two that's going to be. When that plant grows, that seed opens up and provides the nutrients for that plant to get out of the ground and get established. I can't imagine there's a whole lot in that seed at this point, after it's already grown that plant to that point. But clearly, the crows think there is. So they go in and they start ripping this corn up, eating these kernels on the end. Obviously, the plant's dead at this point. They're ripping all the roots out of the ground. It just lays there and wilts and dies. And I was shocked that 4 or 5 crows could do as much damage as what they did. But you got to think about it. We have long day length right now. They're there for 12 to 14 hours, and they're literally doing nothing all day long but yanking up your corn. And if you had nothing to do for 14 hours except to pull corn and eat, you could pull up a lot of corn. And I'm telling you, these things are a real problem. While I was out planting this morning, I saw the same one or one of the same ones, and he was scouting me out when I was planting that same field this morning. So I'm going to talk to the local conservation officer, game warden, and see if I'm allowed to kill those crows or not. Hopefully I am. The way I read the regs, it looks like I can, as long as they're eating my crops. But I want to make sure on that, as I want you to do as well, keep you out of legal trouble. One thing to mention on crows is they're typically not a problem once we get the corn past, I'd say once corn gets to about 10, 11, 12 inches, the crows can't at that point yank it out of the ground. They just can't do it. The roots are too strong at that point. Okay, another problem pest that you probably have never even heard of. You've probably seen it, but you didn't know what it was. So around the edges of your field, especially if it's right up next to the woods, you're going to see where something is dug every like 6 or 7 inches. And this is just on the outside, I don't know, let's say 6 or 12 rows. It almost never happens out in the field. They're all giving us hints here that these are squirrels, okay? These are squirrels that I don't know if they smell that corn, what kind of sense they have. They know exactly where it's at, and they dig a hole right exactly where it's at. They grab the seed, eat it, I'm assuming, they go to the next one. And this ground has been rained on since this has happened, so it may not be super subtle. I can see it here. Hope you can see it in this video. So you've got a corn plant here, a corn plant here, and then you can y'all see those 2 holes? Okay, guys, this is something that you absolutely don't hear anything at all about. I mean, you're never going to hear a food plotter talk about this. This is more for the ag side, but this affected our food plots 3 years ago, I think, or 2 years ago. Army worms. If you've never had a swarm of army worms come through, holy cow. So especially for your beans, they will hurt corn too, but typically when they show up, it's later into summer. Corn's already pretty much done its thing, but I'm talking like they can defoliate a gigantic soybean field in a matter of less than a day. I'm talking like a 60, 80 acre field. All of a sudden you drive by one day, it's bright, beautiful green. The next day, all of a sudden, there's nothing out there. Just stalks and stems. That's it. So these typically will occur, like I said, later on in the summer, but they are a significant threat to our food plots, especially those green plots. And what you basically need to do is you just need to be watching. You need to be kind of observant. When you go out there, you need to be looking. Army worms are not hard to see. There's a gajillion of them out there when they show up. And if they show up in your food plot, you better be spraying as fast as you possibly can, trying to get those things killed off of there, because I'm telling you, they can be a pest that ruins your food plot overnight. Not sure how far up they go as far as north. Ours come from the south, so I'm assuming you southern boys have the same issues that we have in Kentucky. It's not an every year type of thing. Not trying to scare you, just kind of letting you know. I will, if I see them in Kentucky, I will let y'all know on this. I'll make a real quick video and let you know that they're here in Kentucky, so a lot of you can kind of be on the lookout, start spraying. Typically, they're not something that you're going to see every year type deal for us in Kentucky. They're just something that shows up once in a while. They show up. It's a bad, bad deal. Like I said, they can be extremely, extremely difficult to manage, and they can really kill a lot of your food plots and your crops extremely, extremely fast. Thanks for watching today's episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash that like and subscribe button if you hadn't already. Thank you.